John Spears is an artist who has been developing the silkscreen medium for the past 15 years. The images he makes are abstract in nature in both a large and small scale. One important application of his work has been geared towards site-specific commissions where the site is taken into consideration and a work of art that complements the space is created. When art and architecture merge as one, the resulting combination enhances the working, living environment. Art becomes more than decoration. It becomes functional, and it becomes part of the building. In this video, you will see examples of how art and architecture work together. Silkscreening is a fairly new printing process dating back to the 1930s. It is a simple process similar to stenciling. A porous fabric, nowadays dacron, is stretched over a wood frame. A thin film is hand-cut to provide the image that is adhered to the dacron. Wherever the film is, it becomes non-porous. Wherever the film is not, ink can penetrate. As paint is applied onto the screen, a squeegee is used to push the ink through the screen. The result is the image seen here. With a few screen patterns, an infinite variety of pattern can be created. Multiple applications of the screen will create a richer image. Here are a few examples of the artist's work. As you can see, the works appear like weavings or tapestries. In essence, what he is doing, weaving with the silkscreen images. The challenge is to make the silkscreen less of a printing process and more of a painting process. The silkscreen becomes the palette and the squeegee the paintbrush. With this unique approach, the possibilities are endless, not just because he creates an infinite variety of pattern, but because scale for painting has taken on a new dimension. This is apparent in the commission you are about to see. The process of doing major works of art is just that, a process tailored to the client needs. In the commission work involving Nabisco Brands and R.J. Reynolds, he had to meet several times over the period of a year. Concepts were discussed, previous works were viewed, drawings were made, and colorways were analyzed. Finally, work was begun. In order to hang 50-foot pieces, a track system was used. First, the track is stapled directly to the drywall. This track system can be used even on granite walls. Second, once the track is up, acoustical batting is adhered to the wall. This is one functional aspect of his work. So often he's found lobbies made of granite or marble with horrendous acoustics, sound bouncing off every wall. With this particular rotunda, there are 4 stories of granite, so the artwork can provide some acoustical relief. The commission took him over a year to complete. 36 paintings were made, some over 50 feet long. The final results are satisfying. The inspiration for this space was the idea of creating visual music. As in all music, you have tone, harmony, and pattern. In this case, there are 4 stories, and as in a symphony, 4 parts. On each floor, a different movement was created with the use of a particular shape. On the first floor, the common area, the artist used large chevrons in a simple arrangement. Intuitively, the influence of the Southwest came into play. Having been born in the desert, and recently lived in Santa Fe, New Mexico, the first canvases appear as Navajo-inspired. Like in the music of old civilizations, the patterns are simple, thus the images uncomplicated. As he created the additional canvases, he showed a variation on a theme. By turning the screen sideways, a whole new image emerged, like a landscape or a Japanese haiku. Using these same screens, a playfulness occurred by placing the screens randomly. The results are a celebration of color and design. The second floor is a different movement in triangles. His intent, and what he believed occurred, is to have the viewer want to visually follow the paintings around the room. The particular floor reminds the artist of Vivaldi's 4 Seasons. It is a visual landscape of snow, leaves, butterflies, all in the abstract. That is another aspect of his work, working with abstract images that suggest objects and movement. Here on the second floor, one can sense a landscape without having to see trees per se. As we begin with a swirl of white dots and as it crescendos midway, the piece returns to where it began, as in our yearly 4 Seasons. On the third floor, the next movement begins, with the square as its theme and shape. As the pattern grows, so does the visual impact. It is the same as in music. As more instruments are added to the symphony, the intensity of sound occurs. The floor combines a number of screens, an 8-inch square to a 12-inch square. One thing happens when they are all combined on one canvas, and when they are separated, only one size square appears on one canvas. The visual effect is as if you were hearing one instrument of the orchestra. Together, they create all the sounds one hears in a concert. On the fourth floor comes the circle. As reflected in the atrium ceiling, a spoke-like design was also used. The floor appears as if being electronically inspired. Again, motion is an intended effect. The result is an array of visual effects. The spiral turns into a circle, then back into a spiral, and finally into a quiet tone of white on white. This floor, being the top floor, is also the lightest in color. This was done to encourage the viewer to look up from the lower floors. In this commission, careful consideration was given to color and scale. The transformation of this space was due to the concept of making art and architecture work together. Even though the architects were skeptical of its changing the interior with art, all concerned were satisfied with the results. In celebration, Nabisco Brands provided an opening. The following commissions are other interpretations, the first being another lobby location. Garrett Towers of West Paterson, New Jersey. In this installation, another approach was used. Instead of lighting in the traditional sense, these two works were lit from behind using plexiglass boxes 4 feet by 13 feet. The effect is similar to stained glass. The pigments he used are pure and will not fade. The works simply glow at night. The developer, Nat Feld, also commissioned an abstract cityscape of New York, since his building has a tremendous view of New York. Using many of the same screens he used in his other paintings, but employing different techniques, a cityscape formed because of patterns suggesting a city. Buildings are comprised of straight lines due to girders. Therefore, by dropping the grid screen suggesting steel girders, buildings were formed and a skyline created. The next example involved working with the interior architect for Morris Company in New Jersey. The lobby was actually designed around the artwork. The tile work and fabric walls were selected to complement the artwork. This is a good example of art and interior design working together to make a statement. It is as if the artwork was meant for this lobby. In addition to lobbies, the artist has also placed works in conference rooms. Artwork in conference rooms tends to reflect the corporate image. The first example is the boardroom for Nabisco Brands. The reason he believes they selected his work is because it reminded them of weaving, which is used by all societies. And this reflects Nabisco Brands' goal of being an integral part of all societies. It is the process that makes it both primitive yet modern. Essentially, he weaves with the silkscreen, and the results are highly contemporary. A simple process, yet a modern look, kind of like cooking with modern equipment and new ingredients. The next example will be obvious as to why the client chose it. Citibank Real Estate Division related to his cityscapes as real estate. In this particular piece, he reflected what he envisioned in a fast-growing area in New Jersey. The piece is called Highway 287 in the year 2020. His approach to the silkscreen here was to create a skyline instead of weaving. The results are abstract, yet building-like. Some past works include an installation at the world headquarters of Bank of America in San Francisco. The large pieces were mounted with the same track system as in Nabisco. However, here he had to mount the track directly onto granite, using silicon rubber. The stark contrast between a Gothic-like lobby and the brightly colored canvas was startling and strong. It reminded him of castles with tapestries on the large walls. It was interesting to see the reaction of the office workers on their way to work. Instead of running to the elevator as they normally did, many stopped and carefully analyzed what was up. One should not have to have a PhD in fine arts to understand art. Instead of confronting the viewer with controversy, the artist would rather create something beautiful and inviting. Nothing more, nothing less. Another example of influencing the work environment is actually screening onto the office partitions. This result is a playful landscape. John Spear's current work is constantly changing as he develops new techniques. As the process changes, so do the results. His curiosity with the screen allows him to show what can happen with the silk screen. Here's an example. The first of a series of skyline paintings shows how he blends the paint through the screen. The result freezes the action of the paint as it goes into the canvas. Shown next are two cityscapes showing the combination of what occurs in his sky paintings and the grid screens. Whereas the skyline suggests the horizontal, the building of the grid suggests the vertical. Here the combination of the screens produce what he calls high-rise. The next piece is part of his series of New York cityscapes. An intensely colored skyline silhouettes a black and white city. Finally, using a totally different approach to the screen, he's creating a series of what he calls organized chaos paintings. Here, he's trying to create the impression of transformation, an organized sense of chaos, the beginning or the ending. The swirling action of the paint, along with shapes, causes a reaction between matter and motion. Movement is evident and mystery suggested. There is universal depth. There is a tremendous need for artwork in our everyday environments. Galleries and museums are fine, but art can have a tremendous impact in our daily lives. Not only does it enhance the environment, it also adds to the profile of the company or developer in their community. Art and architecture can work together in a wonderful way. Art can be more than a signature. It can be an integral part of a building program. The artist wants to thank those who made this possible, to those who believed it would work, and to those who took a chance. Art and architecture can be successful.